Today we will be test fitting the Raptor Bronco with the new Carli front winch bumper, and we will be removing the factory bumper, installing the Carli bumper, and showing measurement differences between the stock bumper and the Carli bumper. Let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at that Carli bumper design. The Carli bumper arrived immaculately packaged. It's probably one of the best off-road four-wheel drive packaging that I've ever received. I think the best thing that describes all of the Carli bumper is just attention to detail. It's just an incredible work of art. The center section of this bumper is 3/16 inch steel. You can see it's all laser cut. The welds are precision welding. The surface is coated with a satin powder coat. And then these corner pieces, these wings, are 1/8 inch steel, and they bolt onto the center section of the bumper. The front little Carli name badge is actually screwed bolted to the face, and you can see it's a really cool laser cut piece. Down here at the bottom is the intercooler air channel. So this basically directs air up into the intercooler. This is something that most winch bumpers are not providing provision for. So essentially what you're doing is you're blocking the intercooler, which is going to increase your air charge temps. And this is the only bumper I've found that really provides a true accommodation for cooling the intercooler, which is crucial with these turbocharged engines. You can see there's a D-ring shackle mounts here that's welded into the structure of the bumper. The structure of the bumper is kind of just an engineering masterpiece. I mean, you can see all of the different pieces that make up the structure just to provide all of the strength for this bumper. The winch mounting is actually 3 layers of steel thickness, all welded together. And you can see this is a feet forward winch mounting design. So that means that when you mount the winch, the feet actually mount to the front face of the winch bumper. Most winch bumpers are going to be feet down mounting position. This is easier to do for design, not as ideal for winching, especially heavy pulls. Feet forward basically allows the winch to minimize that torsional twisting when you're pulling heavy. It also reduces the fatigue on the mounting hardware, and it more efficiently directs the pulling force forward rather than in a twisting motion. Super awesome. It's really rare to find winch feet forward mounting. This winch bumper also provides for a massive accommodation for large winches, such as the VR EVO 12, a 12,000 pound winch without removing the solenoid pack. That's pretty crazy feat for the front of a Bronco Raptor, because there's a lot going on in the front of it. The other thing that's pretty incredible with it is it's a low profile bumper. So it has a really minimal impact on the camera, and you don't have to relocate the front facing camera, which is a really nice feature. The inside of the bumper has provision for the sonar sensors, and these are completely steel welded holsters for the sensors, and they're retained with a C-clamp or a C-clip, which is probably the best mounting system I've ever seen for any bumper. Fantastic design. They have an interior routing for the cables that has holes slotted for the tie wraps to secure the wiring, so the wiring can stay perfectly nice and secure on the inside of the winch bumper. The corner wings of the bumper provide for the Baja Designs XL80 lights, forward facing, and then side facing is the Baja Designs S2 lights. So something I had no idea was included until I opened the box was they provided a full wiring harness all ready to go, already labeled. Here's the ground, power wire for the XL80, power wire for the S2, and a gasketed connection. So you can just unplug this and remove the bumper. And then you can see it's already got the plugs for the lights. So this is the S2 light, and this is the XL80 light. And we had this on our previous Super Duty truck build. What a fantastic light. It has just amazing optics, very efficient for the amount of lumens, incredible. So The fact that they include this wiring harness, I mean, what a major time savings. And then just how clean it is going to make the install super nice. They also included a factory sonar sensor wiring harness. This is huge because to get this harness out of the factory modular bumper, you have to disassemble everything with it. I mean, it's a complete disassembly to get this harness out. So that's amazing that they did that. Just a really nice value add thing. If you do not have the sonar sensor, they provided these really clever amber lights that go into these holes for the sonar sensors. So instead of it just being a plug, it actually has a little functional thing where it lights up and you can wire them up to the wiring harness. They provided tie wraps for securing the wiring harness, and then all the grade 8 hardware, and then here's the light brackets for the XL80s. The other thing that's pretty amazing is that instead of having loose nuts, they put these little nutserts in for the brackets there, as well as for the bumper wings over here. It just makes it so much easier to assemble when you're not having to try to hold, you know, nut on the backside with a wrench and the bolt at the same time. Just attention to detail. Amazing how they just thought through how this would all go together and work. So let's go ahead and get the factory bumper removed. We're going to fit up this front center section, bolt this on first, and then we'll bolt on the wings, and we'll just check and see how it fits on a Bronco Raptor, because this is the first one to have this bumper fitted to it. Let's get going. There are 17 of these plastic clips that need to be removed, and a little trim tool does a great job popping them out. Basically, you just pull out the center section and the entire clip just slides out. There's 17 of those, and you're just going to want to go around and pop them all out. We like throwing them into a bag just so we don't lose them. Once those clips are out, you can pop this front center section off, and it's going to basically just be popping out straight towards you. And you can use a tool to help pop it out. And that section will come off. With that out of the way, you'll basically have 3 bolts on each side that secure this D-ring, and then this whole bumper will pull out. There's 2 wiring harnesses, one for the sonar sensors and one for these lights that will need to be unplugged, and they're right up behind this bumper on the driver's side. So let's go ahead and get this plopped off. All right, lift off the bumper. I'm gonna just use my knee and lift it off. On the back side here, there's the 1 wire harness plug, and it's a little bit difficult to see, but it's kind of tucked up right underneath the trim underneath the headlight there. With the factory bumper removed, you'll need to relocate the adaptive cruise control module, the ACC, from the intercooler location up to behind the grille. We used the Addicted Desert Design mounting bracket for that. It's already been removed because we have the Whipple supercharger intercooler in here. And the other thing that is kind of a necessity in my opinion is the frame horn reinforcement plates. There's a bunch of manufacturers that sell these. I think the best design is from Metal Tech 4x4, and they essentially clamp around the whole frame and have a through bolt through the frame. And essentially what it does is it gives you a much stronger mounting point for the front winch bumper. The factory has this plate and only a small weld around the perimeter, and if you put a heavy winch load on that, there's just not much holding that to the frame, so your risk of ripping your bumper off is quite high. So I would highly recommend doing that before putting the bumper on. We're gonna go fit up that center section there, and we'll be reusing the factory 3 mounting bolts on each side. So this is one benefit with the bumper being slightly less weight. It's about 100 pounds. We're going to test weigh it, but it's about 100 pounds. And the center section being separate from the ends does make it slightly lighter, but it is a lot easier to get it in place with 2 people. We just snugged up one of the bolts and we have it down as low as it will go, just to try to make sure that we've got wing clearance. You can see these are the provided bolts into the factory, or the nutserts that are in there. And on the wings, they're notched out, so you actually slide them on and then get them snugged up. So the trick is to get all the washers to go through the little holes and just like that. So what we'll have to do is snug it up, but you can see the Raptor front valance must be a little bit different. Go ahead and come up here and you can see the factory valance is just barely making contact with the outer wing here. So I think there's probably two options with that. One would be to trim the bumper or trim the valance, or just let it rub and self-clearance itself. But we're gonna go ahead and get this snugged up on both sides and then just check all the clearances on it. All right, with the bumper wings attached, you can see the lower Bronco Raptor valance is making contact with the bumper. That's because these are slightly wider than the standard Bronco. We've got our standard Bronco right here. You can see it doesn't stick out past the front grille very far. And this one definitely sticks out a good inch or more further. So we marked with a paint pen where we can trim around there and on this back side. So take a look at that. I think with a slight trim, it'll fit just fine. Now this is with the bumper adjusted all the way in the lowest position. It's semi-slotted, so you can raise and lower it just a little bit. So what we'll probably do is trim that and then lift it up just slightly, because even another ½ inch or so of clearance would be nice. And you can see on this side, it's the exact same situation going on. Exact same contact point, just needs a very slight amount of trim. Now you do need to make sure you have room on all these bumpers, because the bumpers are mounted on the frame. The body is mounted on body bushings. So there's going to be a lot of movement when you're off-road between the frame and the body. So if you don't have proper clearance, it's going to be making contact as it flexes and moves around. You can see the front of the bumper obviously extends past the front more than the stock bumper, but let's go ahead and get comparison measurements between the stock and the Carli bumper and see how the approach angle and the distance out and the camera is affected by this bumper. Stock bumper protrudes 3¼ inches from the D-ring shackle, and from the center only 2 inches from the front grille. This thing is crazy tight to the body. Obviously we're going to be extending out further, but let's see how much it is with the Carli bumper. The Carli bumper with thimble and fairlead is right at 9 inches from the front grille. The bumper itself from the front grille is right at 6 inches. So it's fairly low protrusion compared to most winch bumpers, but it's still quite a bit more than factory bumper. This is the Factor 55 flat link, which is not a super compact, but it's fairly compact, fairly. Let's see how it impacts the camera. The stock bumper allowed us to see the ground only 10½ inches from the front grille. The Carli bumper, because it sticks out further, changed our camera distance to 39.5 inches from the front grille. So in essence, we gained, or we lost, 29 inches of viewable area. So this area that we used to be able to see with the stock bumper is now completely hidden. We only can start seeing obstacles or the terrain at this distance, which is about 39.5 inches from the front. So definitely a decrease, but realistically, every bumper is going to be worse than the stock bumper, because the stock bumper is only 2 inches in front of that front grille. To test the factory approach angle, we're using a piece of plywood, putting it up against the wheels, and a digital angle finder. And it looks like we are right at 53 degrees approach angle. Now, approach angle is basically how steep of an obstacle you can drive up before you hit anything. So in this case, the front stock bumper, the D-ring shackles are slightly the lowest point on the vehicle, and 53 degrees is a pretty respectable number for four-wheel drive. Now, the most extreme approach angle would be a 90. So 90 is a vertical wall. And that would basically mean your tires are in front of your bumper. Anytime you put your tires behind your bumper, it decreases your approach angle. So let's go ahead and see how this compares to the Carli bumper. With the Carli bumper, our approach angle has been reduced to 47 degrees. Actually not as much impact as I was originally thinking. They did a really good job with keeping these D-rings kind of tucked back and down low. And so these D-rings almost are perfect profile. to this part of it. And even with the fair lead in here, you can see it's not going to affect the approach angle at all on the front end of it. But it does decrease it slightly because we were at 53 on the stock bumper and now we're at 47. Stock bumper weighs in at 84 pounds, 1 pound heavier than the empty Carli bumper. We will also get a weight of the Carli bumper with it fully loaded with the lights and winch in the upcoming video. The install was straightforward and went well. Now keep in mind, this is for the standard Bronco, not the Raptor Bronco. We have the first test fitting on a Raptor ever, and the only issue we ran into was with those bumper front wings contacting the valance. That's because the Raptor has a valance that sticks out further than the standard Bronco. Now once we bolted it up, one thing we did appreciate was the higher clearance on the bumper wing compared to the stock bumper. So that'll help with getting approach angle into rocks with the front tires. The approach angle overall was impacted about 6 degrees from the stock bumper, and that's because the face of the bumper sticks out about 4 inches further than the stock bumper, which isn't bad considering it's a winch bumper. One thing I do like is that the winch is concealed inside the bumper instead of sitting on top of the bumper. The bumpers that have winches sitting on top, they're actually blocking airflow into your radiator. With a turbocharged engine, you need all the cooling you can get, so you really don't want to obstruct the radiator, and you really want to have good airflow into the intercooler, which this bumper does provide, which is excellent. The other thing is the camera operation. It's nice to be able to keep that stock camera in the factory location. It did impact our camera viewable area by about 29 inches. So we lost about 29 inches of distance in front of the truck because this bumper does stick out further. It's not too bad considering what it is. The weight of the bumper was also another surprise because it was listed to be 100 pounds. With it completely stripped down and empty, we weighed it in at 83 pounds, 1 pound less than the factory bumper, which is pretty incredible. However, there's a few things that I don't love about the bumper. I would take the weight sacrifice of going up to a 3/16 steel, same as the center section for these wings, just to make everything a little bit stronger. I would like to see this bumper designed around the Warn 9.0 RC winch, which is the smallest, lightest winch that Warn offers. Possibly could tuck in the bumper even further. I mean, maybe if you could gain an inch, that would be fantastic. Every inch counts. The frame reinforcement, I think, is a necessary item if you're putting a winch bumper on any of these rigs. It would be nice if Carli would supply that with the bumper, but there are lots of aftermarket suppliers. Overall, I think this is probably the best winch bumper for the V6 2.7 liter Bronco or the Raptor Bronco with a 3 liter. I think it checks the most amount of boxes. I think the design, the weight, everything is very thought through. The attention to detail is fantastic. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Post up in the comments below. Tell me what you like or don't like about this bumper. Would you consider it for your rig? Do you have any other questions about this bumper? Let's hear what you have to say with that. Now stay tuned for our next video. We will be loading up the winch, getting the lights in, doing all the wiring, getting a final weight on this thing, and getting it permanently mounted on here. So stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.